Did you see it? That one little switch stand target that indicated the difference between safety and disaster in this moment. It can become part of the background when it shows you the same thing day after day, but when you stop paying attention to it, you open yourself up to catastrophe. The morning of November 2nd, 2022 was no different from any other autumn morning in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. The Strasburg Railroad had kicked off another day of steam railroading, and the first train of the day was on its way to Lemon Place Junction in Paradise, Pennsylvania. What happened at Paradise, however, would become the stuff of legends, viral videos, and memes. Using Trainz Railroad Simulator 2019, I'm going to take a look at what transpired and the lessons that can be taken for anyone involved in or looking to become involved with railroading. Locomotive number 475 was on the train that day, and she was uncoupled from the rear of the train as usual for the runaround move. The engine crew waved to the passengers as they ran 475 around to the front of the train, as has been done for every run to Paradise since 1960. At the south end of Lemon Place, 475 entered a siding where an excavator had been parked, and the crew did not realize anything was wrong until a split second before impact. The collision levered the arm of the excavator into the smokebox door, shattering it and sending the headlight flying. The outer smokebox ring had a large hole punched in it. Other peripheral damage was done as well. The impact was so forceful it drove a small work flat car coupled to the excavator under and into the former open-air flat car behind it. While exact details vary, the claim has been widely circulated that the arm of the excavator came within a foot of cracking open 475's front tube sheet. If that had happened, there could have been a boiler explosion. Diesel locomotive 8618 was dispatched from East Strasburg to retrieve the passenger cars and ran the second passenger trip of the day in push-pull configuration as far as Carpenter's Crossing while the shop crews drove down to Lemon Place to assess 475. The third passenger departure of the day was canceled. 8618 ventured down to Lemon Place and retrieved 475 late in the evening. She went directly into the railroad's back shop. The collision occurred directly in front of the virtual railfan Lemon Place live cam. Despite the stream being shut off almost immediately after the crash, it took no time for copies of the stream video to make it onto social media. Virtual railfan tried to control the spread of the clip, but it didn't matter as a side-on perspective of the crash taken aboard the train soon emerged. The genie was out of the bottle. The night before, a track crew working on the new freight yard located on the other side of the Route 30 bridge had been working with the track-mounted excavator. When they completed their work, they parked the excavator in the siding between the Lemon Place Picnic Grove and the Amtrak main line. This particular siding is not regularly used by the railroad for anything other than storage. Its only long-term residents are a former Pennsylvania Railroad steam crane and what remains of the railroad's open-air gondola. As 475 approached the switch, the engineer was waving to the passengers and failed to observe that the switch was not in its normal position. 475 entered the siding with the engineer still unaware of the danger. It was not until a split second before the collision that he looked forward and braced for impact. So who's to blame? The railroad publicly blamed the track crew for not throwing the switch back to its usual position. Most professional railroaders I know blame the engineer for failing to check the switch before proceeding through it, especially given that he was within yard limits and thus is expected to anticipate switches being in any position. It gets a little more complicated when one considers the line in the railroad's rule book at the time requiring engine crews to wave at passengers during the runaround. I'm inclined to say that the blame is shared across the entire railroad. Allow me to explain. The first lesson to take away is the necessity of constant vigilance. Complacency, noun, defined as, quote, self-satisfaction, especially when accompanied by unawareness of actual dangers or deficiencies, unquote, by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. On any railroad, complacency can very easily sneak up on a crewman. This is even more of a risk on railroads with repetitive operations, such as tourist railroads. Every run builds more confidence in a crew member. With that confidence comes a sense of knowing what to expect. If not kept in check, however, this confidence becomes assumption. That switch will be that way because it always is and doesn't need attention. Railroads preach against falling into this sort of lull because it has led to many accidents and fatalities over the years. In the case of November 2nd, 2022, doing a runaround maneuver that had been done successfully multiple times a day for approximately 10 years with this track configuration resulted in disaster because one variable that had not shown itself before finally did. One variable, one switch went unchecked after not being an active factor in the operations since it was installed, and it was missed, with dire consequences. The second lesson to take away is the necessity of maintaining a robust safety culture. When something like this happens, my worry is more with the overall safety culture of the railroad rather than which individual is most personally responsible. Iron sharpens iron, as the old proverb says. If a safety culture anywhere is slack, then even the most conscientious crew member will eventually also become complacent. However, if a safety culture demands excellence from everyone at all times, crew members who may even have been a little lax will often tighten up. This is why the Japanese have adopted the point-and-say method of checking oneself. Japanese railwaymen point at everything and say it out loud. Switch, diverging, or signal, clear. It gets the railwaymen to consciously look at and double-check everything, and has been shown to significantly reduce the frequency of human error. Some may think the system is a little over the top, but it is expected of everyone. The safety record of Japan's railways speaks to its success. The third lesson to take away is to occasionally step back and take a good look at how you're doing things. Many railroads do things certain ways because that's the way we've always done it. That answer is insufficient. Just because something has been done the same way for a long time without issue does not mean it will continue to be that way in perpetuity, as the Excavator incident demonstrates. For 10 years, the railroad's runaround moves proceeded through that switch without issue, until the one time they didn't. Every so often, operating practices should be evaluated. Why do we do it that way? What could go wrong, however unlikely, and how do we prevent it from going wrong? Understand the why and evaluate it. If a close call happens, look at what led to it and how a repeat occurrence can be prevented in future. These lessons apply to any railroad and are not simply for Strasburg or any comparable tourist operation. For what it's worth, I have seen evidence that the Strasburg Railroad has indeed learned lessons from recent events and made changes, which I commend. The railroad has shown the level of excellence it is capable of achieving. So long as the employees and crews remain committed to that excellence, the railroad will remain a shining star in the steam railroad industry. As for the rest of the rail industry, these lessons should be carefully considered and adopted where appropriate. A lesson learned by one railroad is a lesson that another railroad can either learn from today or ignore and learn on its own tomorrow. Safety on the rails is the responsibility of all who work on a train in any capacity. From engineers and conductors to trainmen, the safest way to operate is to watch yourself, in every sense of the phrase, at all times. Keeping aware is how dangerous little variables are caught before anything happens, and everyone goes home safely.